Shannon, Jeff, and then Steve Hawkins.
Shannon Spake, ESPN. It's on. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Last week, Jimmie, you and Kevin laughed post-race when Kevin sort of said, for the sake of the sport, somebody else has to win, and you said, says who. Why do you think your competitors say this about you someone else having to win the championship?
Well, I mean, if the roles were reversed, I would be saying the same thing. I mean, as a competitor, you get tired of the same guy winning. I guess I understand where he's coming from and what he's saying. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think it'd be great for someone to win 5 straight. So it's just a little humor on each side there. But he and his fan base and the 11 and their fan base, they want to see their guys win and they want to see a change at the top. But I know myself and my fan base, we like how things have been and hope to keep it up.
Jeff, Steve, and then David Caravello. Go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff of RacingToday.com. Jimmie, with it being such a close points battle, if it stays this way through Homestead and you end up winning by a narrow margin, do you think you'll take more satisfaction in winning a close points race over some of the years when it's been kind of a blowout?
I don't know. Initially, I react and say not really, because the reason we had a lot of points is because we went out and won races. I mean, with the amount of wins we have in the chase, it's not like we've backed into a championship and just kind of stumbled upon 4 in a row. So I don't want to take anything away from the stretches we've had, the races we've won, and we've won a lot of chase races. So I guess I'll know more if that comes together and I can look back on my emotions then. But right now I'm really proud of how we've won these races and take a lot of pride in winning 19 of 64 chase races right now. I mean, that's pretty tough to do, so I don't want to take anything away from the past.
Steve and then David. Go ahead.
Stephen Hawkins with the AP. Jimmie, you talk about, over here on your left, you talk about you're more in the offensive mode than that defensive mode. Last year, I remember you came in with a big lead, and you talked about going into this race, avoiding things, and then obviously what happened on the 3rd lap. How much of that is in the back of your mind, or do you just kind of look at that as a racing incident last year and try not to worry about things like that? Because obviously you don't have the kind of lead this year you had then to overcome that.
Yeah, I mean, everything that goes on in a driver's career you learn from, especially the mistakes that you make. And in my opinion, last year's crash started on Friday. I went out, had a very fast car, and drove a conservative lap and ended up 12th. If I would have gotten the car, been fully committed to running a hard lap, I could have probably, maybe been on the pole, been 5th, wherever it was, and wouldn't have been where the issue took place on the racetrack. So you learn those lessons, and those lessons work for me and are good for me, but every driver has his own style. So stuff that works for me may not work for the 11, may not work for the 29, or anyone else out there. And over the years, I've picked up my lessons along the way and know what I need to do and feel very confident in where I am mentally and what I need to do this weekend. No, that's the reality we live with every weekend. I mean, that in previous chases when I had a big points lead and Bruton Smith has a fat lady singing over on the balcony and nobody wants to believe me and say, hey, this thing isn't over. You've got to run the race. You've got to play the game. That's the reality drivers and teams deal with all the time. It may seem predictable and stats may show something, but until you go out there and take the checkered flag, nothing's guaranteed.
Okay, let's go David Caravello, Bruce Martin, and then we'll end with Pat. Go ahead.
David Caravello, NASCAR.com. Jimmie, you've been through this so many times. How much are you a creature of habit this time of year in terms of doing the same things you've done the last 4 years, especially as we get down to the final weeks in terms of handling everything that's around this championship race?
And every year's been different. I'd say in 06, in 07, I used golf to really kind of distract my mind from the racing stuff and to get out and just kind of unwind from the weekend and kill some time and things like that. Training has been a really good outlet for me through 08 and 09. This year the training is still very much part of my work week, but I've found a lot of great experiences and time and a distraction in a very positive way has been my daughter. To spend time at home, to figure out how to make bottles, how to feed. I mean, just all the things that go along with being a parent has been an amazing distraction for me. And I come to the track. At the end of the day, you got to make sure you come to this racetrack recharged and focused and really nothing present on your mind. And the way this year has gone, I've shown up to the track in a great space mentally, refreshed and ready to go. I'm very fortunate my daughter sleeps through the night. Hopefully that continues through the chase especially. But that's the goal as I think any athlete is to show up to your race for us or your game with a clear mind and ready to go. And I've been able to kind of find things over the years, and it's been different each year. And it's been working well.
Pat?
Jimmie, Pat Patterson, PRN. If you had to characterize the 11 and the 29 and the way they drive you on the racetrack to another driver, what would you say about Harvick and about Hamlin in terms of tactics, maneuvers, how they drive you on the racetrack?
In racing situations, I would say both are very respectful with the give and take of the race. And when push comes to shove at times, I think the tolerance that some people have, a little different. I'd consider Denny maybe a little bit more patient in certain situations than Kevin. I'd put myself more on the patient side as well. But you learn the rhythm of there's like a rhythm on the racetrack that exists and how each driver works. And if you're holding someone up, you look in the mirror and you know how long you can hold that guy up. You know how patient they will be with you. With Kevin, probably need to give up the spot a little earlier than maybe someone else. But that flow not only exists with those two guys, but with everyone. But once you get out there racing door to door with the 11 and the 29, I've had great races with both of them. And there's a list of guys that you get side by side with, and they're going to steal the air off the side of your car. And we do that in general, but they're going to really make life difficult for you. And those guys, they're going to race you hard, but they're going to give you room to race.
Final question. Go ahead.
Bruce Martin, SI.com. Want to ask you something about Denny. When you were a kid, this sport was full of, Earnhardts, Yarboroughs, Allisons, Darrell Waltrip, guys that were all kind of came up through the same type of racing. Since that time, drivers such as yourself, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart have come from other parts of the country. Is Denny kind of like the last of the southern-bred, short track, late model sportsman guy to make it big in this series?
I've never really thought about it. I guess you asked the question because there's some facts behind it. I guess he's the most current. I don't know if he's the last. There's a lot of great short track drivers still in the Carolinas and the South running, and certainly hopeful to make it up through the ranks. I'm drawing a big blank as far as any other guys. I feel very fortunate that guys ahead of me like Stewart and Gordon have opened the eyes of owners and sponsors saying, hey, you don't have to grow up in these vehicles to make it. And it certainly opened up the world for me to come here. But I'm just drawing a big blank. I don't...
Would you say he's taken the traditional path?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, through late models, working his way up through the ranks. Absolutely.
Jimmie, thank you so much. Good luck this weekend.
Yep.